Okay. I know you've seen the title and want me jumped, but let me explain first. Forsaken, you either love it or you hate it. But judging by the recent jump in subs I got from my mini Forsaken series, a lot of you in my audience seem to enjoy it. Though I love Forsaken, there's a lot of glaring issues regarding a lot of stuff around it that I can't really keep quiet on anymore. If you've talked to me on my Discord server, the link is in the description by the way, you'll know what I mean. Let's talk about the biggest issue in Forsaken that I think is causing the most problems right now. But before we get to that, we need to describe some other problems first. So let's start with... Forsaken has a very simple to understand gameplay loop. 8 players are survivors, while 1 is a killer. The players try to get the clock down using generators and complete objectives, while the killer attempts to prevent the survivors from doing said objectives and, well, killing them. Here's the twist. All survivors have abilities and passives to aid them with surviving the match. However, a few characters very clearly need changes, minor or major. But before we get to that, I need to explain the classes of characters in Forsaken. First off, we got the Sentinels. These are characters with stun skills or skills that are specifically made to stop the kill in their tracks. Examples of these are Chance, Guest 1337 and Shedletsky, and 2 Time, but we'll get to that. Stunning the killer is an extremely vital part of Forsaken. Usually in a match without Sentinels, it is a very easy server wipe for a killer. The Sentinels have a different amount of risks and requirements for using their stuns, from having to gamble for it to needing to block first. Shedletsky has no requirements beforehand to use his stun, at the cost of his stun being shorter compared to the others, outside of Guest's punch, but I'll explain the mechanics of that shortly. Next up we have the Survivalists. This pretty much includes 007 and Noob, which their abilities are pretty much selfish but can occasionally help the team. For example, Noob's Slate Skin can body block the killer, and 007 can walk over John Doe's traps with a clone. Finally, we have support. Well, it's in the name. It's survivors that are primarily built to assist Sentinels and other survivors escape the killer or deal with them easier. Examples of these are Elliot, who can throw a pizza to his teammates, Taff, who can place traps to stop the killer, and Dusakar, who exists, I guess. Now, these characters all seem reasonably balanced with their own drawbacks and their own positives. However, an issue with some of these characters is that they're either too good or just lackluster. An example of too good right now is 2 Time. Before the rework, 2 Time had 0 abilities, with their only gimmick being their second life. It was boring, a lot of people didn't like it, myself included, which led to the rework. 2 Time got a whole new set of abilities. 2 Time now has a dagger, a crouch move that makes them undetectable, and a move, Ritual, which allows them to place where their second life is. Compared to every other Sentinel, 2 Time's dagger is extremely powerful compared to other characters' stuns, as 2 Time's front stab already inflicts helpness and slowness too for around 3 seconds, which is essentially a stun outside of the fact that 2 Time is pretty much within close vicinity. It, however, allows other survivors to get away. 2 Time also has a backstab, which is a much stronger variation of the dagger move, which triggers a 4-second long stun if the killer is stabbed from behind. This is insanely overpowered compared to the other Sentinels, especially considering that the cooldown for the dagger seems to be around 25 seconds. The move also apparently comes out frame 1, which makes it extremely difficult for the killer to predict it unless they're doing it from a crouch. On top of that, when there's multiple 2 Times, it makes it even more insufferable, as you can't catch more than 1 2 Time at a time without getting backstabbed. To those who believe this isn't unbalanced, let's look at the risks for all the other Sentinels. Shedletsky has a predictable stun on top of the fact that he has a cooldown for around 40 whole seconds. On top of that, his stun is only around 3 seconds long, while allowing him to get away is not as good as 2 Times stun. Guest has a charge, which is helpful for inflicting helpless, or some weird variation of it, for around a second, which also shoves the killer back. This is good for interrupting chases, but when guest stacking happens, the nerfs make it pretty difficult to use efficiently without taking damage. Guest also has to land a block to unlock his stun, and even then a punch isn't very good as its stun length is only 2 seconds. However, parrying the killer, which is punching the killer within 1 second of blocking, is 3.5 seconds, which is better than Shedletsky's stun, but considering all the debuffs and risks you take, I would say he's around the same as Shedletsky. However, he's made slightly worse by the fact that Shedletsky comes with a heal and his stun is just as predictable as Shedletsky's. I almost forgot to mention that you don't get a punch charge at the start. You have to earn it by landing a block, at the start, which is extremely difficult against a good killer as they'll try to bait out your blocks. Personally, I think the Forsaken devs should work on making Guest's moveset less predictable and harder to punish to make it more balanced and on par with the other Sentinels. And of course, I have to mention my absolute GOAT Chance, who, yeah, he's been nerfed recently. Let's talk about it. The original nerfs Chance got around patch 2.0 was to reduce his maximum HP pool from 120 to 90, which I think is a little bit harsh, but if it was to keep his stun at 5 seconds, that would have been fine. However, recently Chance has been nerfed to make his maximum stun time from 5 seconds to 4 seconds, which I think is unfair. Let me explain why. Chance needs to flip a coin and roll heads 3 times in total to unlock his most efficient shot. Having 2 charges or below for a shot is a severe risk, especially on weakness, which stacks every single time you get tails for around 15 seconds, which is basically a guaranteed death if your gun explodes. Shooting on 3 charges gives Chance a 90% chance of a successful shot. While this is fair enough, as Chance is an RNG character, his hitbox for his gun is tiny, so you have to be a precise shot with the gun. As a main Chance, I think the best advice I can give is to aim with first person, not shift lock, as shift lock makes your shots extremely predictable, on top of the fact that you'll be locked in a straight line with no way to turn your shot. With all this risk and time taken to prepare a stun, Chance used to be rewarded with a 5-second long stun, which I think was perfectly balanced. It rewarded risk shooting up close range, as the stun would be shorter if you did it from far away. This was perfectly balanced. It rewarded risk shooting up close range, which is essentially a death sentence if your gun explodes. However, they nerfed Chance's stun to be 4 seconds long, the update right before the 2-time rework came out, which is extremely unfair due to the complete lack of risk 2-time has compared to Chance and the other Sentinels. What I would suggest to make the meta more balanced is to reduce the length of 2-time stun to about 3.65 seconds, so it's slightly better than Guest's parry, but weaker than Chance's 4-second stun. This would make 2-time balanced. They would keep their glass cannon mechanic on their second life while Chance flips in a corner and rerolls so they can get a good stun. This would balance out the meta along with some Guest buffs. While I understand that Chance is usually seen as a ranged stunner, Chance plays are usually the best when done up close. I forgot to mention, since this is the day before the update, 2-time stacking is also absolutely insufferable, with there being seemingly 0 stacking nerf for anything apart from their second life being harder to get. Although this doesn't really matter because they can just get blood for their second life by stabbing whenever the killer is stunned, completely removing any skill needed for somebody to get their second life. Majority of 2-times issues would be fixed if they couldn't get blood from stabbing the killer while stunned outside of hitting them themselves, as it rewards assisting your team rather than just bumming your second life off them. Forsaken claims to have a team of testers, yet I have no idea how this got through at all. It was extremely unbalanced the day of release and has only seemingly gotten better due to the fact that the hype of the update has worn off and less people are playing 2-time. I'm saying this as somebody who side mains 2-time. Please nerf them. This issue happened similarly with TAF stacking, where the game was pretty much unplayable for a few days due to how unfair the subspace trip mine used to be when TAFs were placing them down at once. TAF stacking nerfs were implemented and that's good, but TAF himself is played a lot less, even though the whole update centered around him. On top of that, Dusakar needs major buffs as well as Guest, which I've mentioned already. Dusakar has 0 options to get away the way Elliot does, which makes him extremely miserable to play as. While I am in no way a good Dusakar, a Dus should not gain slowness while doing spawn protection, as escaping a killer's chase is hard enough as Dusakar. If that was fixed, Dusakar would most likely be more balanced and utilized more to have a healthier team balance. Oh my goodness gracious, where do I even begin? This game is the poster child of Roblox games getting into controversies, which is genuinely tragic as the developers clearly don't enjoy it and it demotivates them from working. It seems like every week there's some new drama. Originally it started with Dream Game, or Frozen Soul as the cool kids call it, pulling Ionia and Nashtasra's skins from the game due to drama surrounding Soul Driven Love, the main developer of the game. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that drama here, as there's plenty of other videos that's covered this already. This caused major backlash from Forsaken fans. This is going to be a recurring pattern where they harass both the Dream Game devs and the Forsaken devs, with an additional reason eventually being cited that the Devs dislike the mischaracterization and NSFW being made of their characters, but I'm not too sure how accurate this is, as Dream Game existed for a while before this drama occurred. This removal was extremely disappointing to me as a fan of both games, and I can only really hope that they somehow get added back one day. I heavily doubt it though. At the very least, they're reworking Squire, or as the Forsaken fans call it, Mafioso, to be unique to Forsaken, and it looks peak as hell. Then we have good old March 18th. John Doe hacked Roblox and... Oh, he didn't? Then what happened? Oh. Yeah, a lot of collabs got pulled from Forsaken on that day, with the worst of the harassment going towards Soul on that day. While obviously, I don't condone what Soul did all those years ago. A smaller drama, but it still messed up the Forsaken community a little. A popular meme figure in the Roblox space, Harry Twinkle, was called out for some gross shit. But I'll be honest, he's 15 years old. Do not harass him. Let him grow and change from this. It's perfectly reasonable for the Forsaken devs to remove him too, but for some reason they got harassed for this anyways. And most recently, you got MTF, a former Forsaken music composer, claiming that he never got paid for his work, even though he denied payment 2 times beforehand. This caused Forsaken devs to get even more shit for the way they were allegedly not paying their devs. But eventually, the Forsaken devs paid him and the drama died down a lot faster compared to normal. And now, for this section, I wanted to quickly mention the most regarding Forsaken: development. Boy oh boy, this is the first reason I wanted to make this video. I want to preface this section by making it clear I have no ill will towards the Forsaken devs, and I'm not a professional game developer or anything, so this is just going to be my own opinions. Being blunt, putting the drama aside, again, objectively, the game's updates have been very slow. When updates do come, it feels like Christmas has come early because the game feels fresh and new for about 2 weeks. The update droughts, good lord, it's reminding me of fighting. It's really tiring trying to play this game with the same 4 killers constantly. If I have to go against one more milestone 4 Jason with 400 ping hitting me from across the map, I might just bash my head into a wall. The Forsaken devs seem to have a problem with priorities. I will be blunt with that. Insanely detailed dev killers are honestly not the issue. I don't care if the devs make dev killers. I don't care what they do in their free time for fun. I would, however, really appreciate it if they stopped posting about things they make only for themselves, as all it does is give them negative attention.
How the fuck would you show me something if I couldn't have it then?
I understand it isn't their intention to flex, I hope, but it just looks like somebody's going, look at my cool dev killer that you can't have nor use. Ha! Whether it's reused assets or reused code or not, there's one dev killer that is absolutely inexcusable: the Stalker from Stalker Reborn. That in no way should be an exclusive dev killer, as that's one of the most highly requested characters in the first place and a cornerstone of Roblox horror. I really do hope the devs reconsider this, as it's not really fair for them to expect us to just be okay with the cornerstone of Roblox killer games to just be gate-kept like that. What I'm also really tired of is updates mainly revolving around skins. The novelty wears off fast. The first few updates where we were getting a lot of skins were cool, but it got to a point where I'm just thinking, man, this could have been time spent on Noli. Man, this could have been time spent on the Mafioso rework. They also keep apparently reworking Noli's moveset, which I guess is fine, but it's tiring hearing that the updates for a single killer keeps getting delayed. While I understand the months of hell the devs have been through and that the game is a free game by young devs with their own lives, I think the developers should spend time figuring out efficient ways to slowly update their game bit by bit rather than waiting for big updates, because that eventually gets delayed a bunch of times and everyone is unhappy. A recent example is that they apparently accidentally completely broke Cool Carnival, and rather than adding it in as a quick patch as soon as it was fixed, we have to wait for yet another small update with a dedicated release cycle for a patch to get it. Again, this is not about any specific developer. I love this game. I want the absolute best for it. I would just really appreciate it if there was more communication from the developers outside of announcements of delays. Like, please, I've been waiting for Nodi for so long I've lost most of my excitement for him. I'm more excited for the Mafioso rework at this point. Anyways, I'd like to end off this video on a positive note, as I'm sure a lot of you are tired of the negativity too. So, one thing I really do appreciate about Forsaken is the pure attention, detail and love they put into the things they create. Things like the little details for each skin they add, with a few exceptions, are absolutely fantastic, with OST so good I've been listening to it in my free time. Shout out to Fleeta Mafioso's chase theme, which I will not embarrass myself attempting to pronounce like I did with the Dream Game characters, for being awesome. I also find it really cool how Forsaken listen to their community, with skins like Pretty Princess being added due to popular fan requests and characters with lacking milestones getting new ones. Personally, I'd love to see Chance get better milestones, as even though his current ones are alright and does the job, I feel like if they remade all the milestones with the same amount of love and effort they did for Guest and 2-Time, they would all be worth using. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like, subscribe, comment and all that jazz. I'll see you in the next one.